on Monday. It is a program designed to highlight, lift, promote Black-owned businesses here in the DMV. We want you to participate in Black-owned Monday. If you have a business or if you have an idea, please get in contact with us at Reed Temple. I'm Dr. Mark Whitlock, and today we have an incredible host, one that has been nothing but a friend to Reed Temple, Kingdom Fellowship, the Christian community, media throughout the world, and certainly here in the DMV. I'm happy to have Matt Anderson join us
Thank you, man.
this afternoon. Hey, man, welcome.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I appreciate you having me.
Let me tell you, man, you have, for those who may not know, it's really you. You have been taking care of the videos, you have been taking care of the messages. It's been your voice, it's been your studio, it's been your work. Thank you for what you have done for Reed Temple and Kingdom Fellowship.
Oh, it's an honor to serve. Thank you so much for allowing me to do what I do.
Thank you. So today, the objective is to talk about your business, to also make sure that we know that it's a Christ-centered business and how Christ has really made a difference in your life as well as the life of your business. Tell me about your business.
Well, our business is incorporated as Missing Peace Productions, and,
Yep.
and the peace is P-E-A-C-E. As in, he'll keep you in perfect peace, and it's kind of a play on words because early on in the business, I found a lot of people who I was called to serve were missing one part. So we kind of did a creative thing with the name Missing Peace Productions. And so we found the part that kind of brings people between, it connects people with their ideas and through the creative process and helps them be able to effectively and efficiently develop their messaging, especially in the media space.
So it had to be kind of crazy, right? Mm-hmm. You not only got, you were here at Reed Temple, and then you also helped to develop Reed North Now Kingdom Fellowship.
Yes, sir.
And I can think of so many missing pieces, particularly for ministry, no matter if it's Reed Temple or Kingdom or any church. Mm-hmm. What are some of the missing pieces that you had to help feel, but also identify, not only in churches, but in other businesses that you've been able to serve?
It's not just the technical piece, it's the simplicity. A lot of times I find what we do, we love God. We love God with all our hearts. And so in doing so, in trying to communicate who he is to this generation, we pack more stuff on. Right. You know, I heard people say I heard someone say that Jesus created a movement, that movement got to Europe and became an institution. That institution got to America and became a business.
Yes. And
we kept adding things to it. And so now we've got these big grand cathedrals, which are wonderful because we love God. But how do we simplify it? If we look at what Jesus did, he stepped out of eternity into time as a regular guy walking around. He simplified everything. So what does a master sculptor do? He or she cuts away all of the unnecessary parts until he or she gets to the masterpiece, that one part. So if you look at even what an Apple phone does, it doesn't even have buttons on it anymore. It's simplified.
That's right.
Keep it simple. When you go to McDonald's, you order a number one. You don't say, I want 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles on a sesame seed bun. Let me get a number one supersize. So simplicity is one of the things we need to have. That's one of the key things I think we need to get into. And then also being very focused, focusing our focused. You know, that's one of the things I find a lot of times in ministry messaging. It tends to get a little convoluted,
yes,
a little bit too much. So I think we need to simplify it, keep the main thing, and focus on that one thing.
But Matt, we'd have to say you have been tested in this pandemic. Mm-hmm. With all of your history, with all of your experience, with all of the projects that you worked on, keeping it simple and making sure you focus. Never before in the history of the church that we know in this century have we had to turn church sanctuaries into television studios. How were you able to meet that challenge?
One of the things I found myself doing early on in my career, when I first started out in radio 30-something years ago, I came from an experience where I was doing hip-hop. I love God, but I was really liking hip-hop. So I was DJing and all that kind of stuff. And so when the time came for me to get a job in full-time radio, I wanted to take some of those techniques and tools into the Christian space, in the gospel space. And what I found was those techniques and tools, the church had a hard time grabbing a hold of. Whether it was the rhythm, whether it was the groove, whether it was the simplicity. I said, we got the most important message in the history of the world.
That's right.
We've got the best singers, the best musicians, but the production value wasn't there. Right. So how do we take those tools and apply it now? It's taking the same tools. You know, if you want to call somebody, a phone is a phone, a car is a car, a light is a light. It depends on, people would say the World Wide Web is evil. I said, no, it's a tool. It's like saying the street is evil. It's a highway to get messaging from one place to the next. So I said, let's take the production value that we've seen all these other people do and take it to the next level. Get the best cameras, the best lighting, the best sound equipment. But then again, it's not just having the best equipment, because I've seen people with really, really good equipment not know what they're doing. And I've seen other people with little simple $50 cameras produce very, very high quality projects. So it's really understanding the techniques, but also adding to it the tools, and then making sure you have the time and the training in place as well.
So pastors are watching right now, small businesses are watching right now, people who have an interest in going into your business. Please tell us, as you walk through these resources, because when we think about television, or if you think about a church like Reed Temple, oh, that's a big church, but with the right tools, with the right information, with the right people behind it, we don't have to spin an arm and a leg to do what you're talking about. Please talk about it.
It's amazing to me how I see, folks spend, these exorbitant amount of money on this equipment, but then they don't know how to use it. Well, when it comes to a medical professional, you want them to go to medical school. When it comes to a lawyer, you want to make sure they went to law school. When it comes to a preacher, hopefully they went to some sort of higher training, whether it's a seminary or Bible college. You want them to be trained.
Expensive.
So when you think about when it comes to media technology, I found many ministries have waited. That's the last thing that they do.
Good.
And so they don't put the training into the people. It's not just the tools, but it's also the training. Wow. Do you understand rule of thirds, shot composition, depth of field, decibels, IRE, those are lighting measurements. If you're going to cook food, you need to know the measurements. Well, the same thing for lighting and sound and imaging and messaging. There's certain ways that the human body digests information, whether it's ministry, whether it's food, whether it's school, sports, whatever it is. So we have to be able to package things in certain ways by training our teams so they can get to that next level and communicate God's truth and love to this generation.
But they need somebody like you who's trained. And so one of the biggest problems is we often pick somebody who we like, or we pick somebody who knows to turn on a cell phone, but that's it.
Yeah.
The proper training, or the proper person to provide help with that camera, that lighting, a few other words that you said that I didn't have a word that you talk about. I didn't understand. I know the Bible, but when you start talking, it was a different language. So your company really comes in and helps that church not only know how to use the tool, but also trains people inside of the church when you're gone. Is that it?
Absolutely, absolutely. What we try to do is develop creative, credible, consistent messaging. That's really part of the mantra of my company, Missing Piece Productions. Credible, consistent, creative. I mean, the first verb in the Bible was create. In the beginning, God created. So we should be creative. Jesus constantly talked in parables. He painted pictures with words. So why are we not using this technology to communicate God's truth and love to this generation? So then you have to be, credible. Do you know what you're talking about? And then consistent. Can you repeat it over and over and over again? If you go to Chick-fil-A, it's the same wherever you go. So we have to be consistent. Is God's message consistent? Now, granted, we got ethnic differences and cultural and regional differences, but the core message is the same. He loves us because, we love him because he first loved us. So method, message, motive. Those are the kinds of things that we need to make sure we're holding on to. So looking at the technical things, but there's also the artistic. One of the things I find a lot of times is ministries get so caught up on the technical, but they forget the creative.
Yes.
Or they get so scientific, but they forget the art. So it's arts and science is technical and creative. So we have to balance those two. We have to find the balance in those two.
So the word says all things work together for the good for those who love the Lord and have been called according to his purpose. It's not either or. It really is the art and the science working together.
Yes, sir.
It really is making sure you blend the two to have a message. You have certainly helped us here at Reed Temple like you would not believe. Each one of those video messages that you make for us are often and always Christ-centered. I want to hear, how has Christ impacted you and your business as we look at the challenges that we faced in the day?
He's my foundation. Jesus is my foundation. Everything I try to do, I try to model after him, whether it's personal, family, business. I'm trying to figure out, how do I model and emulate what he does? Not just the institution that was created on him, about him, for him, to celebrate him, but him, the personhood of Christ. How did he deal with, religiosity and politics and communicating messages? He was a messenger. He was the best messenger. So imagine what he didn't have a microphone. He didn't have a camera.
No.
So how did he communicate to that generation consistently that would change the entire world for eternity? So my thing is, how do I create a messaging that is similar to that? And that's what I try to do, is try to paint pictures and be innovative in the way I'd help to tell stories that ministries are trying to communicate to the people that they're called to serve.
So we want to be like Jesus, and he's the author and the maker of our faith. And if we can be like Jesus, then we certainly are better at whatever we do.
Yes, sir.
Here's a serious question. How did you overcome, let's say, one of your biggest challenges? And sometimes growth for some is a challenge. How do we face growth? How do we deal with growth? How do we deal with failure? Yeah. Let me hear you talk about it.
Ooh, Pastor, because I was right on the tip of my tongue when you said the failure piece, because there have been starts and stops. I literally incorporated Missing Piece Productions in 2001.
Wow.
And so when I first started out, I was just doing radio commercials. That was where I wanted to start. And I was doing radio, so I said I'll do radio spots for other ministries and nonprofits around the country, and I did. And I started literally in a closet. Literally, the closet was about from where I am to where you are. I took the clothes out, put a computer in there. Couldn't afford a real computer.
I started preaching from a bathtub. Keep going.
Amen. And started from that space and literally had spots on the air in New York and Dallas and Atlanta, all over the country. Nobody knew I was in this little old closet.
Wow.
And so despise not small beginnings. But along the way, I still had to eat. So I had regular jobs along the way, trying to build this business. Then it went into sound reinforcement, that I provide sound and lighting for different events, concerts and conferences and fashion shows. Then finally the video piece came into place. And I said, you know what? One of the biggest challenges, two pieces. One is the failure piece, but also trying to get people to see the future. See it before you see it. A lot of times what we do is we try to wait until we get there to see it.
Right.
And what happens in media and ministry,
right.
You got to be able to see it, and then you got to go see it and bring it back and communicate it to a people who can not understand it, but your job is to help communicate it so they can see it before they see it.
Right.
And so that's been one of the biggest challenges for me. So along the way, I think it was 2008 I finally got to a place, and I was just frustrated. At this time I was working at Sirius XM. I was a producer there for a bunch of their talk channels. Oprah's channel, NASCAR, and Major League Baseball, and all, producing commercials. But I got tired of sitting in this quiet studio all this period of time by myself, because I want to touch people. So I said, look, you know what? I'm done. I quit. I'm going to go full time with this business. Gave them 2 weeks, I was gone. And this is around the time the economy started looking crazy. 2008, right. 2009.
That's exactly right. It's starting to dip now.
And it was a faith thing. I said, I can do it. I believe God.
But you still got kids to feed.
Hello. And nobody was thinking about radio spots or TV commercials or video stuff. Everybody else was trying to eat.
I know I wasn't.
So I stood back and said, you know what? I got to go back and get a regular job again. And I did. And so finally, along the way, I learned, I said, you know what? I've got to figure this thing out. I want to do ministry. I want to do media. And so along the way, Reed Temple had been one of my clients for years. I'd been producing radio commercials and video projects for years. And finally, an opportunity came. And it was Eugene Wooden at the time. Said, hey, man, there's a spot up at our other campus. Do you want to go talk to him? I said, I knew Pastor Wiley. I knew Pastor Washington. I was like, yeah, let me go talk to him. I'd love to see what's happening. And one thing led to another, and I found myself on staff again. And so every couple of years, I was like, I'm ready to roll out and do this business again. I said, no, I can't do it. I can't leave yet. Because I really want to serve and help the ministry grow. And so over a period of time, then the pandemic finally hit. Woo. And that was a change that none of us saw.
Nobody.
Where everything that we talked about, where we were 20% online or 20% media-based and 80% in the building, it flipped. It became like 80, 90% online.
99, 100%.
And so the failure piece for me at that point was not so much failure. It was an opportunity.
That's right.
I think it's the Japanese culture, they say the name for calamity or obstacle is opportunity.
That's exactly right.
So I look at this and I said, it's an opportunity. How do I continue to grow? How do I continue to serve in my church and be on staff? But I still got to do this because I ain't getting no younger. If I don't do this now and unpack my gifts at this level, it's time for me to write stories, to develop documentaries, to not only serve other clients, but also unpack some of these original content ideas that I have that are going to communicate, God's truth and love to this generation in a way that's creative, that's innovative, that's not just ratchet and hip hop. Don't get me wrong, that's part of our culture. But how do we communicate God's truth and love in a way that's not corny, that's not stale, that connects with people? And so that's what I did. I took a leap of faith about a year ago and said, you know what, it's time to do it now. If I don't do it now, it's never going to do it. And the business has just been rocking ever since.
You said something that struck a nerve for me. You said I had to move past all my doubts. And I thought about the scripture that says, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. And you have a family, you have debt, you have responsibility, yet you stepped out on faith, right? One of the big words that we use
Yes,
here
sir.
is Mark 11, verse 22, have faith in God.
Yes, sir.
Speak to a mountain, mountain will move. And you did it. So I believe there are people listening right now.
Yes, sir.
There are people who want to go into business. There are people who are stuck on jobs and they're doing a good job. You did a good job at Kingdom. You did a good job at Reed Temple. But they're stuck on a job and they know there's a bigger opportunity for them. What advice would you have for those people who are watching? And let me add one more thing to it, because I'm going to confuse you and say keep it simple, but I'm not doing that. I'm supposed to keep it simple. But man, I was impressed when you brought your we were doing a thing together at CVS, and you came in to film in what, nationwide, if not worldwide. But you had your sons there, and your sons were operating the camera, and your sons were using the boom mic. And I said to myself, and I said to you, I'm saying now how proud I was of you, how you had your whole family involved with your business. Please expound, number one, advice for business, people who want to go into business, and then how do we incorporate our family? Because my grandfather, who hired me at the age of 9, said the best gift you can give your children is to hire them.
Wow. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So you got to believe it now for something you can't see yet.
Talk, man.
So when my kids were little, my sons were little specifically, my daughter doesn't do anything with me, but my two sons work with me periodically whenever I can pull them away from other obligations. But they are two of the most creative minds that I know. They may not have all the technical stuff down to the level I have after 35 years doing this, but the ideas. There's a great example. My son Curtis, we did a shoot a few weeks ago, and we're at Mother Bethel, matter of fact, in Philly, and doing part of their dance ministry, helping out with Pastor Mark up there. And there was one scene where I'm directing, and then finally, I looked away for a second, and then my son jumps in and he starts directing. He starts explaining to the dancers, well, I need you to turn and the light, and I'm looking at him like, so I shut up for a minute. I let him do his thing, and I said, that's part of his gifting. Now, my other son, Nathan, is more of a technical one. He'll just won't say a word. I say, I need lights here, cameras here, audio here, this is the setup. And I'll turn my back, and I turn around, and it's done. And I'm like, I don't have to coach him. So he's more of a technical one. The other one's more of a charismatic one. So when you start talking about, where to start for other businesses, you have to prepare, plan for what you want. You may not be able to afford all the equipment right now. Start with what did God say to Moses? What's that in your hand?
Come on now with the
same stick he had for years and years and years. Same stick. But here it was, the moment the opportunity came, he said, cast the stick down. Same stick, but God had to put his super on that natural.
Speak now.
So that's when I believe that God will add some super to your natural. What's that in your hand? I started in a little closet. I'm not where I want to be. I'd like to own a studio like Tyler Perry, creating Christian, urban-based, focused, black-focused content for us. Documentaries, news content, comedy content, long-form scripted films. Why can't we do that? Why can't we do something that's edifying, enriching, and uplifting? So start where you are. Plan for it. Write the vision and make it plain. It needs to be so simplistic that somebody who can grab it can run with it without dropping it. Can you tell somebody your vision in 30 seconds? Can you tell somebody your vision in 5 or 10 seconds? What do you do? You know, and that's what I try to do, is make it very clear that my job is to help people to develop credible, consistent, and creative messaging for their ministries and their nonprofits. But there's also original content in me as well, which is the second half of the business, which is spinning off as Matt Anderson Films. And that's the original content that's going to help people to be able to understand who God is in a creative way.
I keep seeing Kathy Hughes in you, Bob Johnson, Tyler Perry. I see them all, because you're talking not only about projects, and you're not talking about, but what you're doing is talking about vision and ideas. Some people get caught up in people. Other people get caught up in projects, but the best of us get caught up in the ideas. And I see the future, and for me, the future looks very bright for Matt Anderson. I'm not kidding you, and I see God in your story. As we bring this to an end, please, there are people right now that have been interested in contacting you. So please give a little commercial. Give them a way to contact you by email, if not by Instagram, if telephone, whatever you want to do. Please, how may we get in contact with you?
Amen. Well, my website is mattandersonfilms.com. That's mattandersonfilms.com. And my email is mattandersonfilms1, like the numeral 1, @gmail.com. And you can catch me anywhere on social media outlets as well under that same moniker.
And the services you provide?
Services provide anything from a single 1-camera interview to a full 7 or 8 camera live switched event, streaming services, post-production services, producing, lighting, sound, all that kind of stuff.
Thank you very much, Matt Anderson. Any closing comments before we end the program?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you, Pastor. I appreciate your willingness to look forward and to be mindful of, thinking about businesses, small businesses like us, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you. We want to thank Matt Anderson. He has been nothing but a great tool, resource for us, as well as at Kingdom Fellowship. Know that we come to you every week with a different business. If you have an interest in working with us on Black Owned Monday, please contact our office here at Reed Temple, or send me an email at markw@reedtemple.org. Know that your business matters to us, matters to God, matters to the community where we live, work, and worship. Until next week, I'm Dr. Mark Whitlock. God bless.